Okay. Well, for people who are joining this live stream, this is an internal design review meeting. That's part of our incremental language development series, adding features to Wolfram Language. We're actually at the end of a version. We pretty much wrapped up the things for version 11.3. So this is for future versions. We're starting work on those things. We had a week's hiatus last week because I was at the Consumer Electronics Show, but now we're back. Let's get going. Okay, so first thing is a function for converting. What is this? This is for converting from one file format to another. What's the
Sushma, can you give the background on this one?
Yes, this was something that you had suggested, that we have a function to convert from one import-export file format to another file format. So one example was converting between JSON formats.
Okay, so in other words, what this is about is we might instead say, for example, I might say export string, for example, of, I don't know, 456 to JSON. And then I want to be able to convert that somehow to BSON, for instance. Is that the idea?
Right, or going from one image format to another.
Okay, so it's basically an import and an export.
Yes.
With an intermediate that is where the main point is to maintain. I mean, okay, so well, let's take that example of from one image format to another. So, picture of a fish or something. Wonderful. Okay, so then we would say, so what's the point here? We would have this as a file, for example. Is it a string, a file, or a byte array? I mean,
I think a file name. Yeah, you have it in a file. So,
well, so we something like file convert. And
the reason why we put it on the agenda is that I wanted to know if you really meant this to be file conversion or any other conversion as well. There was not a whole lot of notes around the discussion you were having at the time this has come up.
Well, do we think file convert is an important thing to have? This has come up in previous years, I know that.
Didn't we at some point, I think with all the file system map and those set of functions, we should be able to do import and export, so the conversion should be doable.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is it trivial, and do we care, and is it undefined where we have to give a bunch of import parameters and then a bunch of export parameters, or is there some way of doing this where we're taking charge of keeping it as sort of lossless as possible?
Well, it is, yeah. I think the defaults are going to be typically as lossless as possible. The syntax is not going to be super trivial with file system map. So maybe something like a file convert is going to make sense. How efficient?
The problem is, but it's also a question of whether, I mean, look, the obvious way to do this will be a file convert with a file name, and then the possibility of a target there, and then the possibility of that being the default is that's the target, and the non-default would be that's the mapping.
And how about elements? Do we want to get the data out of an image and then out of a JPEG and then export it, convert it into?
You want to do something? That? I think if you want to do that, then use import and export, because
okay, that's going to make it more doable. The design is going to get messy if we want to include elements in there.
The question is, what cases are there where it actually makes sense? I mean, in other words, for example, we might imagine a file convert from an XLS file to, I mean, there are cases like with audio formats and stuff like this where people definitely want to do conversions.
Yes.
And, you know, this is certainly, you know, this thing.
Compressions, right? Get this PNG and make it more compressed. So I'm thinking maybe even some options for the target file format makes sense.
Fair enough. But look, in this case, this thing is going to output xxxx.csv.
Yes.
That would presumably be its default.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think this is a reasonable function. Can somebody in the import-export team try and put this together?
We can do this as long as it's not, the first version obviously is not going to be very efficient. We might be able to look into more optimization down the road with specific classes of objects, like for all images, try to do it out of core, audio maybe do it out of core and things like that. But
yeah, well, the ones where we can do it out of core, we should try to do that. But I would do, I think we can just do the simple cases for the time being and see what it's like.
Okay.
Okay, so Sushma, did you get that syntax, or should I send that to you, or what should we do?
I took a screenshot.
Okay, all right, let's move on then. Okay, next one is XLS and CSV, changing the default input format to dataset.
Right. For CSV, you probably have it in your build. For XLS, you don't. The thing is that it's going to be backwards incompatible. Specifically, Jeremy, about that. Specifically, Jeremy Michelson was quite unhappy about it on the XLS pull request about changing that default. I'm guessing some alpha code, maybe some serious amount of alpha code, maybe breaking after that change. So,
well, okay. So the question really is, do we have it? Okay, is this a question of changing the default right now? I mean, does it work right now with it can import as a data set. The only question is how to change the defaults. Is that
exactly
correct?
For CSV it does. For XLS it's gonna be wrapped up in the next few days. CSV
that it is capable of sending it to a data set, is what you're saying.
CSV can already import it as data set. We have the data set element.
I understand. Already. Is that documented here?
Yes.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, data
representation. Yeah.
Okay. So if I take this, and I do that generically, what the heck?
Get rid of the
that's
second.
Because I have a second import. Yeah. Okay. Dandy. Now. Okay. Well, it clearly looks nicer.
Mm-hmm. I think even in cases that you have headers, further part extractions is going to be easier, honestly, especially.
Oh yeah, it's going to be much better.
So
look, one thing we could do,
mm-hmm.
I may regret this idea. There are two different things. One is what happens in the case where it's auto-detecting the type. Look, I think for this version, we should not change the default, probably. I think Jeremy is probably right.
Okay.
Okay. Let's look at it again for 12.0, whether we change the default.
Okay. But one thing we can do is soon after the 11.3 release, we can change the default in prototype builds and see what is the overall internal impact.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, that brings me to another topic about data sets that I wanted to bring up, which is the possibility of folding, of having some UX or other. I mean, is Jose here? Does
he's here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Can you? What is happening with Xavier's project to improve dataset formatting and so on?
He's mainly working right now in fixing lots of bugs there are on dataset, and in the process we are learning, and he's learning about the type system, the formatting, and he has fixed already various things of the formatting. Okay. I think we are more still in the phase of learning about the system and fixing what is not working correctly, rather than in improving it and adding new features.
Fair enough. Okay, so one feature that was discussed is the possibility of hiding columns in dataset in its default display, which I think is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. How would that work? How would you choose which ones to hide?
Well, I think you would specify in the dataset formatting options which ones to hide, and then potentially they would be closed. So in other words, you would simply see a little tick at the top for where the columns are, where there are columns, but they're closed, analogous to closed cells. And then you click on it and it opens. Or maybe when you hover, it shows you what they are and you click to open.
I see. I see. I'm thinking that having an opener in every single column could be a bit heavy.
Oh, no, that's crazy. Right. No, I'm saying you only put it in there when it's closed, so to speak. And you're asking, oh, I see. The question is, in a given column, okay, so two cases. One is the thing was specified in the options to be closed upon initial display, right?
Right.
And then there's the question of opening it after it is closed on initial display. That seems fairly uncontroversial. The question then is, if something is open, like one of these, can I close it?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we could do something where on hover, it brings up a closer. As you hover close to the right separator, it can bring up a closer. I think that will be, I mean, we need to have a UX discussion about it.
Right. Perhaps this is one of those things in which you hover over the line itself and then you move it. You can click it and move it to one side or the other side or something like that.
This line?
Yeah, I mean,
well, I don't think we want to, I mean, we're not moving the line, we're simply closing that. What I'm suggesting is that there's a little X thing here that closes that group, that closes, sorry, that column, right?
Right, yeah.
You could have a, you know, it's a little thing that just, you know, circled X or something maybe that closes the column. Or maybe not really a circled X, because maybe instead it wants to be a, yeah, it probably wants to be a double down arrow thing that you click on and it then turns into something which then becomes a double right arrow, okay, to indicate that there is a column there, but you're not seeing it. See what I'm saying? And then in areas where there is a column, but you're not seeing it, you just see a bunch of little vestigial double right arrows at the top. And you hover, you click that, you hover to see what they are, and you click to open them. Does that make sense?
Something similar to the section dingbats we are now having.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, so that would, and as of earlier today, we decided we are going to have, let's see, in this case, right? If I close that, what we've decided is that if I open it with that thing, then I will see that as a closer here, right?
Nice.
If I do it with these, then I won't do that. But otherwise, if you're open with that, then I get to close with that as well. Okay. So should we go on here?
Yes. So I don't think we need Shadi anymore.
Okay. Well, let me just see what's coming up with if we go through the low-hanging business. Let's see.
We will have to start from current window images.
What are we starting from?
Current window images.
Sorry, say that again. I just didn't understand.
Current window images.
Oh boy, I don't even know what that is. But yeah, okay. Well, if Shadi is able to stick around, I think it might be nice. But or maybe we can call her back.
Yeah, I can be in the background, sure.
Okay. All right. What's next for the main thing here? We've got some knitting to do.
Yes. So there are these functions, and
do I need to update here?
When did you? If it's yesterday, it's fine.
Let's do it now, just to be sure. Okay.
So with respect to find equational proof and proof object, we're still adding some more examples, but.
What happened to adding the examples? By the way, I assume Jonathan isn't on this call. Is that correct?
He's not.
Okay. So what happened to adding all the examples from the known equational logic systems?
So we are adding them like Schaeffer logic and other types of logic through the 2 pages, but we don't have the axiomatic theory function that we were planning.
No, I understand that. I understand, but we're putting them in the examples.
Exactly. So
if I go to, oh my gosh, this stupid bug, stupid bug. Look at this thing. See that idiocy? We still, could somebody let Roger know, Dooley know that this is still broken, unbelievably?
That's strange. So that's only happening in your computer? Because, I mean, that's something important.
No, I only know what's happening in my computer, so I don't know.
No. What I meant is that I haven't seen other people complaining about this, and this is.
I agree. We don't know what it is. It's something very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gremlin that got into my computer. Okay, so what you're saying is in here, that's a very ugly picture.
Well, yeah, yes, that's another.
No, no, I see. It just should be smaller. Can I make it smaller?
Yes, we have been playing with the sizes of the graphs, and actually there is something going on with the default settings for the build documentation, and it looks horrible in the build documentation. So
okay, all right, but by the way, did Charles made a change to the generic graph system? Did he not? If I say, table of complete graph, and then I say like n from 3 to 10, no, they're all the same size. Wasn't there something where we were going to change the size based on the number of nodes? But actually, maybe they're not all the same size here.
I don't remember that. In find equational proof, we do return the size of the nodes depending on the number of nodes. But that's the size of the nodes, not the size of the total of the complete graph, of the whole graph.
Yeah. Okay, there was a plan. Maybe Sushma, you could chase this. There was a plan to make, just like we do for images, to make the initial display size of graphs depend on the number of nodes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask him.
Okay. But now, and here, okay, so what am I supposed to look at here? What is that?
So here we have, say, group theory, or further down we have Stephen Logic, and yeah. So here you see how the size of the nodes change, and we have other different shapes and different colors, so they are easier to recognize.
These are not the axioms. Specify some typical textbook axioms.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You either got to say it's Boolean logic, or you got to say it's Boolean. You got to decide whether it's Boolean logic or Boolean algebra.
Okay.
I would have thought Mr. Niels Abel gets a capital A there, but I'm not passionate about that subject. I don't know whether it's now become a lowercase a.
Yeah, it's so common that, but yeah, perhaps.
I don't know. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're just giving these examples.
Yeah, like here, like this Stephen Logic, and we have more.
And you're putting more into the section.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fine.
So what do you think about this case, for example? Sorry.
Yeah.
Go further down. What do you think about this last case with this big graph here? Is the size here reasonable enough? Or?
It's fine. I mean, it's fine. If you want to see the graph better, then
on hover we show the name of the node. At some point we had suggested. I mean, there was a suggestion of showing the actual expression at that moment. Do you think it would be?
I don't know. I mean, how complicated is it?
It could get quite complicated at some point, but I mean, just showing critical per lemma 26 may not be.
It's not very useful.
Right, exactly. So in a sense, the expression, you can trace what's going on, at which step the proof is.
Well, I don't know. I kind of tend to think that we should leave this as it is. You might want to for now, I think we need to get more experience with it. It's an experimental function.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And we decided against having a data repository entry with somebody has got their camera switched on, which they probably shouldn't do.
Me, I'll take it off.
So the problem there was that we wanted to parameterize the products and the names of the objects, etc.
I know, which is why, so we gave up completely on having a,
Yeah.
Is that right? We gave up completely on, okay. Anyway, what was the knitting we needed to do here?
Yes, so in which guides do we put this? So I have some suggestions, but because this is such a special function, I wanted to check with you.
Okay, well, let's take a look here. What are we going, I mean, yeah, full simplify, I agree with all of those. Do we have back pointers from full simplify? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we just need to figure out the guides.
The guides, yes. So there is one called Logic and Boolean Algebra, which seems...
definitely goes there, yes.
Exactly. But then I don't know whether to put them in the ones related to equations, like manipulating equations and solving equations.
Well, what about things... I'm not sure, but let's put it in here first. Okay.
Yep.
I think we want to say here, we want to have a section automated theorem proving. And we want to say don't we want to point it to things like Grosvenor basis and so on? Isn't it relevant to that? Like the Knuth-Bendix business, by the way.
Could be. Same with cylindrical decomposition, particularly for geometry, but Grosvenor bases are more algebraic.
Okay, here we say simplify logic expressions, and we shouldn't say prove theorems here. We should say, well, no, actually we can say prove theorems. Generate let's see.
Generate
generate symbolic representations of proofs.
In equational logic.
Okay, and then the only other thing here we have is proof object.
Exactly.
Analysis and verification.
Yes, but we don't yet have a verification function.
Don't we have a verification? Okay.
No, we have this proof function that it returns internally, but we want to have a proof verify, which is a lot more powerful.
Okay. All right, I'm okay with that. Now let's go and see what we want to do. Let's look at where full simplify occurs. Okay. Mathematics and algorithms, that might be a candidate, except it's a excised page. Great. What's theorem proving? The heck is that?
Wow.
Well, that's certainly highly relevant.
Indeed, I didn't get that.
Well, that's very much from the quantifier elimination world, I would think,
yes,
which of course is relevant.
It's fine because this handles quantified expressions as well.
Okay, so where should we put it on this page? Predicates, find instance. Arguably, it should be up here.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe I think it's after full simplify there.
Yes, but it is its own section. So
Yeah, it is its own section. It says automated theorem proving there.
yeah, I mean, perhaps it needs a delimiter there.
Do you really think full simplify wants to be on its own?
Well, it was on its own before.
I know it was on its own. All right, but I think it goes along with this because full simplify is capable of doing the exact same things. It just doesn't generate the proof object.
There's no, it offers no guarantees of anything.
Okay.
I see it closer to the polynomial algebra subsection.
Okay, there we go. Let's we're okay. So equational logic.
That by name sort of implies no inequalities. I don't think we want that.
Well, it says find equational proof.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not. I mean, if it really is restricted in that way, then we
That's
probably
the name
want
of the type of logic that it's using.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's don't be confused that doesn't mean that it is a. Okay, hold on. Let's see. For axiom systems specified. Specified using equational logic.
Okay.
For equational includes state-of-the-art capabilities for generating full symbolic proof objects. Theorem proving, well, we could say theorem proving theorems from axioms. Because that's what it really is, as compared to this other stuff which already knows what it is from arbitrary axioms or something.
Yeah, so these are axioms that can be expressed as equations.
How about that?
Exactly, yeah, I like that better, yeah.
Because it's an object with the details of the proof, do you want to say proving theorems or deriving proofs?
Deriving.
Because we're giving a derivation,
Yeah,
in a sense.
Generating proofs from equational
Generating
axioms.
proofs. Generating proofs.
Okay. Generate proofs. Based on arbitrary axiom systems from arbitrary equational axiom systems. Is that reasonable?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's keep going here. The heck is that? Well, fortunately, it's a defunct page. I don't think algebraic transformations makes it. I think in the future, add sides and all those kinds of things might link to this, but not for the time being. The only one I wonder about is whether graph should link to proof object in some way. Does proof object link to graph? Arguably, it should.
It's a stretch.
It could link to graph and data set if you want.
Not to data set.
No?
I think it's
generating graph. What's that?
I think it's a stretch to do that. What's the motivation?
All right, forget it. What else is like proof object? What about implicit, the various implicit algebraic constructs, like root objects and things like that? Or is that also too much of a stretch?
I think so. We don't have anything which is like step by step. If we had something step by step, it would be natural to link here. But
fine, it's a new thing. It's its own thing. Okay. Anything else for these?
Okay. So we don't put it in any of the manipulating equations guide pages or anything like that.
But getting back to what Jose said for a moment, do we have anything in the pipeline with step by step, either within or outside of alpha?
Yes, the idea is, I mean, we're talking about putting a step-by-step function into the Wolfram language that uses the alpha code base.
Oh, okay. So there will come a time when it would make sense to put that link in, but
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
All right. Algebraic transformations. I don't see us putting it in here. Well, actually, hold on. Oh, yeah. We should put it in here. All right. Okay, I agree.
Well, I was talking about one called manipulating equations.
Well, but this is called algebraic transformations. Does it fit in here? I think it sort of does.
Yes, in the logical part, yeah, we can put it there as well.
This thing has polynomial reduce in it somewhere, right?
This page? Well, let's take a look.
Yeah, in the C alsos, or well, not C alsos, in the list of functions in the area. Possibly near the rational functions or polynomial expressions.
I have no idea. I mean, it's probably underneath there. Should I look?
Yeah.
What is the one you're looking for?
Polynomial reduce.
That is such a mess, that whole polynomial mod versus polynomial reduce versus all these other things. I've never understood that stuff.
Yeah, notwithstanding. All right. It's another problem for another day.
All right. Okay, so what did you have? One called manipulating equations?
Manipulating equations, yes.
This has the new add sides and related?
Not yet.
Will have? Oh, I see.
Okay, so but Roger was going to do that. And if he doesn't do it, then I'll do it, right?
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to find some guide page that focuses on the equation part, not on the proof part.
Okay. What do we say here? How do we connect it here?
The same thing. Find proofs from equational axioms.
Well, okay, we could have a things here saying, I don't see this. I'm sorry. I think this is a much more obscure, complicated thing. I really don't see this. This is a fairly elementary page. I mean, this page absolutely needs the whole, add sides business on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. All right, let's wrap these up. Hey, I wanted to make one change in the function page. I was going to do this. Let's just move. I'm fed up with people Oh, okay. It does say it has attributes there. Okay, that was changed. Good.
Yes, so what we discussed recently, I think here is the notation null in the first argument. That was the thing that wasn't there.
What notation in the first argument?
Yes, so being able to, because if you want to use attributes in the third argument and you don't have a named variable, you have to use null in the first argument. And I think that was the thing. Yeah, okay, so that's the last line. So that's the thing that has been recently added. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Mhm.
Okay, scaled as a second argument for random sample.
We have to knit authentication dialog as well.
Oh. Humph. Okay. Boy, is this, has it got back pointers from all of these?
Yeah.
I don't see it there.
Oh, okay. I will ask Lou to do that.
Well, no, but I mean, wait a minute. Where do we want to put this in?
Guide pages.
No, I understand, but here,
I have to bow out early today.
okay, that's
Sorry.
fine.
Bye.
I don't think they're important for this particular thing.
Fair enough. Bye-bye.
This is probably the very first thing here. So it wants to go there. Then it wants to go in. It's not for permissions, right? It's an alternative to permissions key. It's relevant for encrypt, yes? Is that right? You can use it for encrypt. Is that true? Yes, you can put it in the first argument of encrypt, right? Boy, that's got a lot of stuff in it. Okay. And, oh, field masked. Boy, that better show it. Okay. Did we put it in? Sorry, did I just put it in encrypt?
Yes.
Okay, permissions key, that should probably go at the end there. Okay, any others that I need to put it in? Secured authentication key is a much more obscure creature. Yeah, I don't think it should go in there. It's kind of a complicated thing. And by the time you're using a secured authentication key, you're not using this other stuff. Okay, so let's go here.
There is one guide page called Dialog Boxes.
And there's one called Authentication Control here. Wow, why is that so futurized? This needs to be checked into. We need to figure out why that's still futurized.
Okay.
That doesn't seem right to me. And this should be pointing to that authentication control stuff. Okay. Okay, so this is okay. Let's go here. Okay, so that goes there, but then we're also going to want, I think this is a bit of a messy thing. I think we're going to need a little bit more work on this. I don't understand that this page needs to get modified for secured authentication key as well.
Okay.
Let's get a separate meeting set up for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
There's some messiness here. And can you find out what happened to this authentication control page?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Okay, good. All right, let's look at this scaled as a second argument for random sample thing. Ready to do that?
Yep.
Is our node here or not?
He's not here, but
Okay.
the idea seems simple. So this looks, to me, this looks like some sort of relative take spec.
Yes, I agree. And that's an interesting question, whether that could actually be a take spec as well. So if I could say, take range of 100 scaled of 0.5, that's sort of interesting. Obviously, it's going to fail right now, but that's interesting.
So this requires that if we know the list, the total list, and the order, of course, we need to have an order, then we can just take 50%.
Yes. I think that's interesting. What are the other cases where we might have this?
Well, there are many functions that say take only n objects, which in a sense is a take spec, a reduced take spec.
Yes. Why did this open, by the way, with details open? That's wrong. Yeah, I mean, things like string take, saying 50% there, that will be useful. I agree that things that have a take spec could use this. Actually, it's a cool idea.
Okay, well, I think it needs a bit more of exploration just to make sure that we are not forgetting something important, but...
Yeah, right. It's going to have to round and things like this, right?
Exactly. Probably we don't want rounding to 0 and things like that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And what does it do if it's out of range, blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, you know, scaled of 2 probably should just give everything.
Yeah, either an error or everything. It's like when we say infinity.
Yeah, I mean, it is a slightly slippery slope because we could imagine part specifications or span specifications with scaled in them.
Well, that's why I wanted to focus on take spec. I think this is take, not part.
Fair enough.
Because part, I mean, what is a relative position? A relative size or length feels better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right, let's just, for the sake of getting somewhere, I'm supposed to go to something soon, but let's for the sake of getting somewhere, let's just take a little look at, so what was the first item that I was supposed to look at here?
Current window image.
Find what?
Current in window image.
Okay, did we cover? Oh, I wanted to. Did we talk about delete outliers?
Yeah, I am supposed to send that to Roger.
Okay.
Which I will do, right?
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which probably isn't for this group, is external value. So that has to do with for things where we're, you know, for like this case, okay? If we're doing, you know, we're running a random piece of Python code, what I would like to be able to do is to be able to say for this session, right? So that particular thing is an external session that was started. Am I making sense? So I think if I say external sessions, I will see that there is an external session there. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I would like to be able to define an external value which is set inside that external session, so I can refer to the external value inside the external session. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see. So the
Should
first
be quite straightforward. What's that?
The first argument is that external session object you have there.
That is correct, yes. And the second argument is the name of that variable in the external session. So that then allows me to string together different pieces of this external session. And it allows me to interrogate variables that were set in the external session.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably not the right group to talk about this. I think that's probably something for, I think Dorian is going to take over this particular code base, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere between Garrett and Dorian. So Sushma, if you could try and, chase that down, that would be good.
Okay.
Okay, now what am I looking for? I'm looking for, let's see. By the way, how is Around doing these days?
I need to go back to it after it will be one of my main projects after we release 11.3.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, current window images. So, if I say current...
We have current screen image.
And do we have current window image?
We have current notebook image, which is another thing, but we don't have current window image. And I wanted to check if this is just a change of name that we had, or...
No. This would be something different. This is a thing where so current notebook image, fine. Okay, so this would be, and I don't know if this is doable, this would be just like we have system processes, so there is a tree of windows as displayed on the screen. And the question is, can we pick up images from all the windows displayed on the screen? Okay.
And what's the meaning of current? How do we refer to a current window?
Well, current as in, this is the image of the window as it is right now. Like here, we can see current notebook image shows that actual cell evaluating when the screen image was taken.
Yes, but current notebook makes sense because we are evaluating this in a notebook. But if the window is some sort of browser window or whatever?
No, but I'm saying current window images is just saying, given your operating system, right? Given the Windows system, just get an image of every single window as it currently is configured.
Oh, I see. So current means now, not this window. I see.
That is correct. Just like current image means the image taken by your camera right now.
I see. I thought current notebook is this notebook, as opposed to that other notebook.
No, I understand. The current modifies the image, not the notebook.
Right. Okay.
This is a question really for, I guess, who would be doing this? Maybe Garrett again? I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know how these things were done originally. I don't know. This is using the robot tools technology stack from QA. All of these current image, all of these window image things, I believe. So I guess ask our node who should now be dealing with that.
Okay.
All right. The next one I wanted to talk about was this faded form function, which I feel quite strongly about. Have we talked about that at a different time? That's the thing where we keep on using it for blogs and things, a thing where we're basically showing a result. So let's say I have short of range of 1,000,5 or something, right? That's just cutting it off. That is so freaking ugly. That is so version 1-ish. We really should make this some kind of graphical thing. At the very least, we should make that graphical. Maybe we could, rather than using those silly Guillemes. At the very least, because this was built at a time when this was basically for terminal output. Okay, but so the idea of faded form is that we're literally taking the bitmap of this thing and we're fading it beyond a certain number of lines. Am I making sense? And it would be I suppose we could kind of have a test version of it that's just based on rasterize, because we already have this functionality in, and I'm going to have to go in a second, unfortunately. We already have this functionality in that we use for creating things for blogs. Jeremy Davis has this.
Okay.
So if you could go chase that down with Jeremy, find out what he has.
Okay.
And then let's see whether
so is this like a Jeremy Davis meets front end kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't know, because it depends. I think it might be, we may have to do it with image processing. It may be that there is no, well, I mean, ultimately it should be a front end display option. But it may be that as a practical matter, it's not obvious. Okay, once you have the faded form, it is not obvious what should happen if you select inside it. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
That's really the question. So, okay, we should bring this back for another
Just for the purpose of what kinds of fading, we added a few of these framing effects to image effect 11.2.
Oh, really?
So I think that torn paper was another one. Faded sides. I think by default it fades all the sides. That last.
What do you know?
Framing effects.
Well, isn't that beautiful? Okay. Well, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we want. The question is whether, I mean, but this is not really saying, can I just use image effects to fade something? Probably not, because what I want is to actually cut it off at a certain point.
Right.
It's got several parameters that are needed. Like, basically for fading, probably in a perfect world, faded form would produce something that actually has some kind of opener or pull down, shade pull down type thing that allows me to unfade it if I want to.
I agree.
All right, we better wrap it up here. And to be continued.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.